be screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 12th part of, What If Ichigo Enters KUROINU? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Takamagara 2012 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. In Thorn, later that same day. The sun was setting after a long day of restoring the shrine. The thick wooden beams around the shrine were painted a bright red with gold accents over the white wooden spaces between each of the red beams, the roofing was a teal green, and the cemented groundwork along with the stairs were perfectly fixed up. The interior was good as new thanks to Seishin and his use of his Zanpakuto's power to duplicate himself. The wooden floors, walls and rooms were restored and polished like new, and every historical artifact the shrine maidens have were good as new after Seishin used Sabashal. Luckily, one of his clones was sacrificed to help restore it. Seishin, being both the VIP and Kagaya's chosen one, was personally invited by Kagaya herself to see their sacred dance in a matsuri they hosted, celebrating Salinas' newly reclaimed peace and to honor Seishin for all he did. Many people arrived at the shrine's entrance, including Seishin. There was even a reserved seat in the front row for him to see it all. As the performance was about to start, Seishin saw Kagaya and 4 of her maidens, the same ones from before, whom Seishin spoke to about being Kagaya's chosen one, and in the center was Kagaya herself. She wore her hakuma and a kosode over her garment. The Miko maiden saw Seishin in the front row and smiled before she began to speak to the crowd. It has been 2 months since KUROINU was defeated and their leader, Volt, was dead. Kagaya announced. Peace has been restored to our lands and it's all thanks to this young man, that very man whom I chose as my chosen one. Let this dance celebrate the peace we are in, and to the man who helped us. Thank you, Seishin Samyu. The audience let out a round of applause as Seishin stood up. The young man chuckled sheepishly and shyly waved to the crowd. As they applauded the young man, Kagaya and the other maidens smiled and giggled at Seishin's innocent blush. Moments later, their Kagura dance began. Soothing music began playing, Kagaya and her maidens danced so fluidly, more angelic. As they danced, a light breeze blew by and cherry blossom petals danced alongside the maidens in the calm breeze. Once their dance came to an end, Seishin along with the crowd all gave them a standing ovation, applauding them for their performance. Kagaya herself stood on stage as she prepared another announcement. Thank you for your applause, everyone. We will return later with another dance to close this festival. Meanwhile, enjoy yourselves to your heart's content. As everyone went to enjoy the festival, Kagaya was able to catch up to Seishin before she hugged him tightly from behind. The maiden wore a pink yukata with flowers of various colors, like yellow, green, purple and so on. The young man wore a light blush on his smiling face when he saw her before she took his hand and pressed herself against his arm. There's plenty of time before the festival ends, would you like to join me, my chosen one? Kagaya kindly asked. I would love to, Kagaya. Seishin smiled before the maiden saw some of the stands making food like yakisoba, takoyaki, even candy apples. Kagaya, feeling excited like a little kid in an amusement park, went over there while pulling Seishin along. After the two ate, they went to try a few things like goldfish scooping, mask designing, and even bean-bag tossing. He was even able to get her a cute stuffed red panda for her. Hours felt like minutes as the two were having such fun in the festival. All the games they played, some of the food they tried, they had a very good time. Kagaya enjoyed it all so much that she almost forgot her dance to close the festival. Ah man, after spending time here with you, I almost forgot about the dance to close the festival. Kaguya gasped. I really had a good time that I don't want this night to end. And you won't have to. Seishin said. We can still have our fun after the festival ends. Besides, I don't want my priestess to feel bad. Thank you, Seishin. Kaguya replied after kissing his lips for a second. After this dance, I have one more I want to show you, and you alone. I'm looking forward to it, besides this festival lasts the whole weekend anyway. Seishin chuckled, which made Kaguya giggle. The two returned to the palace in time before the bells rang, calling the audience back to watch one more performance. The priestess returned wearing her hakama and kosode. Calm music began playing once more and Kaguya began her dance. Every minute, she glanced at Seishin, who sat in the front row once more, smiling at Kaguya as she danced so fluidly, like a ballerina. One of her fellow maidens arrived and personally handed Seishin a note. The young man slightly bowed, thanking her, before she left. He opened the note and noticed that it was Kaguya's handwriting. Come into the palace while I'm performing. Wait for me in my room, for your special performance, was the message Kaguya sent to him. Seishin rose to his feet before seeing one of Kaguya's maidens, motioning him to follow her. He followed her through a secret entrance into the palace and into Kaguya's room. The young man blushed at the well-designed room. A large bed in the middle of the left side of the room, red wall scrolls with multiple words like peace, wisdom, and nature were hanging on the walls. Beside her bed was a room divider. In the center of the room, was a stage with lights. Something tells him that her dance is going to be very RTC for him. Why do I have the feeling Yoruchi had taught Kaguya some dances behind my back? Seishin thought to himself. Does she really want me to get such a massive nosebleed? Seishin suddenly heard a round of applause from outside. He figured that Kaguya had just finished her dance and the festival had come to a close for the night. He heard footsteps approaching the room, until he saw the sliding doors open and saw the priestess herself walk inside. She smiled as she approached him and planted a soft embrace on his lips. I hope you're ready to see this, and some other surprises. Kaguya said as she led him to her bed. Yoruchi-san had taught me this dance, and a little of the modern world, and its music, so I hope you would like this, my darling. Kaguya smiled as she went to the shelf on her right side and picked up a MP3 player. She pressed play on the player and one of the two songs began playing. It was Pillows by Lido and Santel. Seishin remembered the song so easily, since Yoruchi had given him a lap dance to that very song back in Kisuke's candy shop when Kisuke's away for the weekend back on Valentine's Day. Seishin watched as the music began and Kaguya slowly approached him until she stood over his lap and began to dance for him. Her arms slowly reached upward before her hands were behind her head, her hips slowly swayed to the beat and her eyes were closed as she danced to the beat. Seishin's eyes were hypnotized at the sight of Kaguya's hips gyrating in front of him. Her hands slowly moved from the back of her head and let it run down her neck, to her shoulders, down her stomach and inches from her crotch. The priestess giggled before her clothing began to change after removing the lower half of her dress. Kaguya's outfit slowly changed colors. Seishin blushed a dark red when he saw her kosode turning black and neon blue, and when she slowly undressed the top half of her outfit, she wore a black soft but tight LTHR lingerie, a black bat-shaped band that barely covered her ample BRST. Her G-string panties did little to hide her lower region, even with the heart-shaped opening in the middle. Lastly on her head, horns sprouted on top of her headband. Seishin couldn't help but blush at how Kaguya looked before she sat on Seishin's lap and rubbed her side rear on his lap while she softly wrapped her arms around his neck and rested his head on her cleavage. Kaguya began to blush a dark red before she let out a small gasp as her body began to warm up while embracing Seishin. She stood back up before gyrating her hips around while she slowly twirled around, giving Seishin a very good view of her bubbly rear in that G-string. Seishin. He's watching my dance and in this outfit. It's strange, but it's turning me on. I want. Kaguya blushed as she gazed at her lover, her body getting hot and bothered, her blush darkened, her breath getting heavy, her juices began to run down her legs, and heartbeats were getting faster like it's ready to pop out her chest. In her mind, she imagined her and Seishin having such a passionate moment in her bed, under the sheets. The feel of Seishin's warm hands, his soft kisses all over her body, every second of that moment sent jolts up and down her body. The second the song ends, Kaguya pinned Seishin down. Seishin didn't react in time as Kaguya pushed him into bed. He watched as she slowly approached him so seductively. Her eyes were full of love and lust for the young man as she crawled on the bed, until she sat on top of his lap, straddling her hips against his awakening bulge. "Did you like my performance, Seishin?" Kaguya asked, which Seishin replied with a nod. "My body feels so hot, my heart is beating so fast, and all I'm thinking about is you." Kaguya slowly stripped off her outfit, showing off her NDE body. As she pulled off her panties, she showed him her wet snatch. She eyed her bulge before he pulled off his pants. When she saw his thick irked before her very eyes, she couldn't help but smile as she crawled next to him before she showed him her dripping folds while remaining on her knees. Kaguya. Seishin blushed a dark red as he watched her spread her cheeks, showing him both of her holes. She turned, showing off her innocent look while smiling at him. "Seishin, I want it," she said before she slid her hands between her legs and spread her pink folds out, showing him everything. "Please, put your thick strong PP inside me. I want you to fill me to your heart's content. If I do that, then are you willing to bear my future child, Kaguya?" Seishin asked her. "Seishin, ever since you saved me from Shimohisa, I couldn't help but want to be by your side," Kaguya said. "Now that Volt's dead, I want to be by your side, even in holy matrimony. Please, Seishin. I want you inside me. Take me, please." "Very well, Kaguya. I'll gladly give it to you," Seishin said as he rubbed the tip of his against her pink folds before Kaguya pushed herself down on the young man's hot tower. A smiling gasp was made when she felt his entire deep inside her. Unable to uncontrol herself, she began to bounce against his groin and grind her hips against his for a moment, until Seishin held her hips and took control. She smiled and moaned as she felt his thick hot tower hitting every spot inside her. He bucked his hips back and forth, sliding his thick in and out of her tight slit. "Yes. Yes. It feels so good," Kaguya cried out in sheer pleasure as Seishin continued thrusting deep inside her. After a while, Kaguya was bouncing on his lap, riding his thick cannon. Her melons jiggled with each bounce she made while her hands were placed on his shoulders. Crimson eyes met with hazel as the two smiled before they planted a passionate embrace. As they kissed, his hands softly brushed up until they softly groped her melons. Kaguya began to gasp and louder, at the combined feel of his strong girth inside her and the feel of his hands massaging her melons. "More. Do it more. Mess me up, darling," Kaguya said as she was laying on her right side with Seishin holding her left leg up. The young man continued his powerful thrusts inside her, until she felt his tip hitting her cervix's entrance. Her smile never left as she looked at her lover before he got her laying on her back in a commando pose. Seishin continued as he went faster and harder while his lips softly suckled on her melons, and Kaguya cradled his head. The two continued their passionate night until they felt their loins tightening up. "Seishin, I'm about to leak," Kaguya cried. "Me, too," Seishin replied before she placed her hands on his face, guiding him until they're face to face. "Let's do it together, darling. Leak with me," Kaguya said before the two shared an embrace that lasted a minute before they both cried out as they reached their CLMX. Kaguya felt his warm SPRM flood her womb until the last drop was let out. Shortly after, the two were resting under the sheets. Seishin was breathing strong, worn from his lovemaking with the priestess, while the latter was resting soundly on his chest. Kaguya slowly looked up at him before she slid up to embrace his lips. That was and still is the best thing ever. Kaguya said. You were amazing, my darling king. So are you, my appealing priestess. Seishin replied as he and Kaguya softly nuzzled their foreheads together. And we have all of this weekend to enjoy this and the festival. I can't wait to enjoy this. Kaguya said before the two drift off and sleep. In Dragondala. In Dragondala, there was a celebration that happened once every year since King Lawrence was still alive. Every person in the kingdom was invited to enjoy the celebration. The castle interior was decorated in red, white and gold ribbons, wreaths were hung on the walls and lights were lit in the same colors that represent the kingdom. In the main hall, there was a tall pine tree decorated from top to bottom with ornaments, streamers, and red and gold lights, and on the very tip of the tree was a silver dragon holding a star. Kachu welcomed the townspeople with open arms, happy to celebrate this holiday. The two became even more happier, now that Seishin arrived. Kachu spread her wings and flew to Seishin, embracing him. My beloved Seishin, I'm so glad you came. Kachu smiled as she gazed at Seishin's crimson eyes and warm smile. I would never leave my appealing queens here. Seishin happily chuckled before the two kissed. Nina joined in and kissed his lips as well. So, what's going on here? Some sort of holiday? Yes, it is. We celebrate this holiday once every year. It's called Fest of the Dragon. Kachu explains. On this holiday, people are welcome to our castle to celebrate with one another, we feast to our heart's content in the dining hall, and then during the night, each of us hold a candle in our hands while standing under the tree outside, and sing a song in Draconian. That's kinda surprising, because in my time, we have a holiday that's similar to this, the tree and all. The holiday's called Christmas. Seishin chuckled. Christmas? Kachu questioned. Christmas in my time is about being close with your loved ones, cherishing each other. Seishin said. When my family celebrates, we decorate the house up in many decorations, much like how yours is, especially the tree. When Christmas morning came, we gave each other presents before opening them. Seishin then stopped to see Kachu feeling down. The new queen sighed before she wiped tears off her face. Just then, he realized that this is the first year since her father and Jean died, that she's celebrating the holiday. Seishin felt sympathetic for her and gave her a hug. Kachu felt Seishin's warmth before she smiled and hugged her back. I'm sorry, Kachu. Seishin said as he rubbed the back of his head, feeling bad. I know you missed Jean and your father. I know that they would love to spend this day with you. I know, but it feels like they're already here. Kachu thought. Well, I made you something. I had gone to a jewelry maker in Eostia and asked if they could make this pendant. Seishin said as he took the gold pendant out of his pocket and held it out for her. Ah, Seishin. It's appealing. Kachu said as she marveled at the pendant in his hand, only to see tears run down her face when she saw an engraved image of her, Seishin, Jean, Anna, as well as her mom and dad. Seishin calmly smiled before he helped her put it around her neck. Now a part of them will always be with you. Seishin chuckled happily before he felt his lips pressed against Kachu's with such passion. Soon after, Nina and Anna arrived and smiled at the two kissing each other. Welcome home, Seishin. Nina said as she planted an embrace on his lips. Glad to see you again, Seishin. Anna added. Thanks. Seishin replied. Shall we join in with the festivities? Yes. The three agreed before they joined the others. Along the way, Seishin kindly gave Anna her pendant, which the kind handmaiden happily accepted. Seishin joined the others in the large feast in the dining hall where there was so much food the eye could see. He happily helped the others get their meals ready before he got his meal and sat next to Nina, Anna and Kachu. After they all ate, they went around the tree. Each of them held a candle in their hands and everyone, except Seishin, all sang. Kachu, Anna and Nina all stood beside him, handing him a guitar which he happily played. After the singing, everyone all shared gifts with each other. While Anna is with her new boyfriend, a young blue-eyed male with dark auburn-colored hair, Seishin smiled as he watched the others enjoy the holiday. Kachu and Nina approached the young man, smiling before the two wrapped their bodies around his arms. This was a really good day. Thanks for that. Seishin calmly chuckled before the two ladies kissed his cheeks. You're very welcome, sweetie. Kachu said. We should have given you something in return. No need. Seeing you happy in my reward. Seishin replied. No, my darling king. Nina added. You gave us these appealing pendants, and though we're sad that we don't have anything in return, there is one thing we can do in return. I have a feeling I know where this is going. Seishin said before the two queens giggled as they pulled Seishin into the castle, leading him into his quarters. Minutes later and their clothes were scattered across the floor. Seishin was in the middle while being kissed by both the ladies while their hands softly stroked his urchin. Kachu was already naked while the only things her mother had left on was her dark pink garter belt attached to her matching leg-high stockings. Seishin. Do you have a mother in your world? Nina asked him. Hee. Yeah, I do. Seishin replied, chuckling from the two ladies kissing his cheeks, neck and collarbone. She's appealing, just like you. Is that so? Nina questioned him with a giggle. How do you feel about me being both your queen and your mama? Ah, Nina. I could never say no to you. I would love for you to be my mama as well. Nina's heart skipped a beat when Seishin said yes. She grasped Seishin's face before she kissed him with such passion. Kachu, dear. Would you mind if I go first this time? Nina asked her. Kachu remembered when she asked her mom that she should go first since he helped save her from Jinyo. The lilac-haired woman smiled as she nodded before letting her go first. Nina smiled before she stood on her knees. As she gazed at Seishin with such lust building up inside her, she began to fondle her left breast with her left hand and rub her pink lower lips with her right hand. To Seishin's surprise, she was already wet and her juices were already leaking down her legs. He calmly chuckled as he continued to gaze at her, as she moaned so soft and lewd. That's right, baby boy. Look at mama. She said before milk began to spray out of her right NPL. How much do you like mama's body, baby boy? I love it a lot, mama. Seishin kindly answered before she leaned in and kissed his lips for a minute. Their tongues swirled around, dancing such a forbidden dance with one another. Once her lips were pulled back, it was replaced with the same right NPL. Come, baby boy. Drink mama's milk please. Nina said as she watched his lips instantly wrap around her NPL before feeling her milk getting softly sucked from her teat. Nina smiled as she cradled Seishin's head, watching her lover drink her breast milk. She gasped before feeling his fingers sliding in and out of her lower lips, coating them with her juices. As she softly moaned, felt his fingers go in and out of her snatch, coating it in her juices. His expert skills continued to hit her sensitive spot inside her inner walls, before she squealed as her love juices squirted out of her like a sprinkler. As she panted strong, admiring Seishin as he continued drinking her breast milk, she then shifted her eyes to Kachu as the lilac-haired queen was gazing at Seishin's irked member. She gently stroked his warm member before she leaned in and ate the tip like it was a lollipop. Back when I was enslaved by Jinyol and Kabuto, I was forced to do such perverted tasks against my will. I was forced to SCK the PP of my soldiers, and be one of his breeding sows, being bred by his hand and by many monsters. I hated it. Kachu thought as she remembered those past events while she closed her eyes and softly sucked on it halfway. But compared to Seishin, this is so different from. That he tastes so much better. I want to taste him more. She looks up to him starting to drool, moving her head on without thinking too. Seishin began to more as he watched her animal instincts take over her. Her emerald eyes, filled with love and lust, shimmered before turning into her hybrid form. Kachu's urges took over her before she took Seishin's thick cannon down her throat, mashing her nose against the base of his groin and feeling his sack against her chin. See Kachu. This feels so good. Seishin said as his red eyes gazed at her now turned amber-colored eyes as Kachu continued taking his length down her throat. As she continued to SCK on his thick member, she softly fondled his sack with her one hand and worked with the other, making him from both her ORL and handiwork. As Kachu removed her other hand, she swallowed Seishin's thick phallus. Nina watched her daughter as her arousal grew even more. The blonde-haired woman smiled at her daughter before she turned into her hybrid form as well. My dear daughter, please let me join you. Nina smiled as she joined Kachu in the fellatio action. Seishin moaned. Evermore as Kachu and Nina licked his throbbing, savoring and memorizing his addicting taste. The two's combined affection was so great that his and sack swell up. Leak, my love. Please give it to us. Kachu said. Yes, my baby boy. Leak for us. Nina added before Seishin grunted, letting out a large load of his spunk, surprising Kachu before she drank her fill of his hot milk. She quickly pulled his out and fed Nina her share of it. Once the two freed Seishin's length from their mouths, his twitched before letting out a few globs out on both their faces and chst. The young man was panting strong from the aftershock until he was able to regain his composure. Kachu and Nina smiled at the two before they shifted their sight to his Urken once more. The two ladies licked their lips before returning their sights to Seishin, who smirked at the two queens. Nina. Wanna claim this throne? Seishin asked before Nina eagerly hopped on Seishin's lap, her back against his well-built chst, straddling her hips against his tower in front of Kachu. Baby boy, tell me again how much you love mama. Nina cooed at the young man. I'll gladly admire you to your heart's content, mama. Seishin smiled. You're appealing, vivacious, voluptuous, caring. Need I go on? In mere seconds, Seishin slid his strong meat rod deep inside her pink orifice. Nina gasped in sheer delight at the feel of his thick trunk deep inside her warm tunnel. He wrapped her legs in his arms before spreading both their legs out while sliding his thick phallus in and out of her, while Kachu watched as she played with her well-endowed melons and her dripping wet pink folds between her legs. Ah! Yes, good boy. F your mama harder. Nina, with her smile never left, howled in sheer lust, enjoying the feel of Seishin's powerful thrusts. Her melons jiggled with each slam he made, her body bounced with each move, and more of both her love juices and her BRST milk continued to leak out. As she continued, Kachu, who was playing with her melons and her pink folds, joined in as she began licking Seishin's trunk and Nina's CLT, tasting both of them at the same time. Wow! Mama Nina's inner walls are coiling around me even tighter. She's moaning like a PP-addicted nymphomaniac. Seishin thought as he watched her grpng her massive milk udders and squirting milk all around. He then shifted his sight to Kachu as she was tasting her mother's love juices that streaming down his mighty trunk. I can feel your throbbing PP hitting my womb, baby boy. It feels so good. Nina cried out while spraying her BRST milk all around, until Kachu planted her lips on her right NPL, while Seishin as he shifted himself around a little, planted his lips on her left BRST. The two simultaneously drank more of Nina's milk, looking up at the blonde-haired hybrid. My tips. They're being sucked on at the same time. Oh, it feels so good. Nina cried in sheer lust. Nina replied to her daughter in kind, by sliding two fingers in and out of her wet snatch. At the same time, Seishin felt his CLMX quickly approaching. So is Nina's. Crimson eyes met with green before Seishin freed his lips from her lactating NPL and kissed her deeply, letting the well-endowed mother taste her milk off his tongue for a few seconds. I'm at my limit. Seishin cried. Mama, I'm about to leak. Baby boy. You're leaking. Nina questioned while maintaining her smile. Go ahead, shoot your SMN inside my slippery PP to your heart's content. Mama. Mama. Seishin grunted as he felt like he's about to explode like a volcano. Please. Shoot it all inside me. Nina cried before she felt Seishin's SMN explode inside her, flooding her womb until it was full. The remains of their mixture seeped out of her, bubbling and streaming down between their legs and onto the bed. At the same time, Kachu came, her juices sprayed out of her tight pink folds like a geyser and landed on the floor. Nina laid back against Seishin with her arms and legs spread out like a spider. Her melons, her stomach, her pink folds and inner thighs were covered in her BRST milk. Her eyes were rolled up and her dragon tongue was hanging out, all while she was catching her breath as her body twitched from the aftereffect. Itadakimasu, Seishin and Nina said before he slowly pulled his milk-covered length out, in time for Kachu to clean it up. Her dragon tongue wrapped around his before she took it in her mouth again. Sweet Kami, that feels good, Kachu. Seishin said while he laid Nina beside him on his left side. Hee, is that so? Then how about this? Kachu smirked before she sandwiched Seishin's sticky cannon between her endowed melons. Seishin watched her do her magic, making the young man I can never stop loving your tit job. Both yours and Mama's. Seishin smiled, which made Kachu giggle. Well, I'm your wife, my darling hero. It's the least I can do. Kachu replied while looking up at him with love and lust in her amber eyes. Now just lay back and enjoy this. You're such a caring woman, Kachu. So, in exchange I'll. Seishin smiled at her before he lightly petted her head. As he petted her, his thumb accidentally brushed against her horn, which he didn't realize that it was one of her sensitive spots, making Kachu go crazy as she stroked his between her melons very quickly. Seishin's, due to his recent romp with the lust-fueled Nina, was sensitive and combined that with Kachu's mastery with her melons, Seishin accidentally sprayed Kachu's face with his SPRM. Kachu regained her composure and gasped at what had happened. Seishin, I'm so sorry. Kachu said as she saw her melons and hands covered in his juices. The lilac-haired dragoness felt ashamed as she raised her hands close to her face. I was lost in joy. It's okay. It's not your fault. Seishin said. Besides, I'm still up for more. We can do it again. Seishin, okay. Kachu's amber eyes gazed at Seishin's red eyes and warm smile. A second later, the two kissed with such pure passion. Minutes later, Kachu was laying against the back of the bed with her left arm wrapped around the bedpost and her right hand rubbing her CLT. Her pleasant cries of pleasure were music to his ears as Seishin drove his iron-strong log inside her. Kachu's smile never left as she felt his powerful thrusts shock her body with such intensity, like endless waves crashing against the side of the shore. I can feel you inside me. It feels so good. More. More. Kachu cried as she spread her bubbly as cheeks more, allowing Seishin to go deeper inside her. Drunk on lust, Kachu wrapped her arms around Seishin before kissing him deeply. Moments later, Seishin has Kachu on her hands and knees while Seishin continues his thunderous assault inside her from behind. Seishin has his left hand on Kachu's left horn, though he was very gentle with it. Enticed by the sight of her rippling cheeks, Seishin gave her bouncy but a good smack. Whereas most women would get mad by that, Kachu moaned wantonly as her bubbly rear was assaulted. Kachu turned her sight to Seishin with lust and longing in her eyes. Seishin. You're amazing. PND me more. She pleaded while her smile never left. Grip my horns as strong as you can. Don't worry, they won't break so easily. Seishin took the sight of the powerful dragonsborn pleading for more. He grinned before he leaned in and kissed her lips softly. He then placed his hands on her cheeks and spread them. Pulling back, he then pushed his way back into her dripping CNT with such force he can manage. In between each of her thrusts, he continued to smack Kachu's butt until they were a stinging red. Seishin then used his spirit energy to heal the sting by letting out a calm cool aura, which made Kachu even more while she gripped the sheets. Her eyes squeezed shut as her head was snapped back before felt his hands gripping her horns and his powerful thrusts. Seishin, while enjoying every bit of this NTMT moment, felt the rising sensation in his loins and his swelling up. See Kachu. I'm about to leak. Seishin grunted. No. Not yet. I want you to PND me the same way you did with my mother. Kachu said. Seishin smiled as he looked at Kachu's eyes, before they leaned in and kissed each other. A minute later, Seishin has Kachu laying with her back against his chest with her legs spread open and her arms wrapped around his neck. He held her right leg with his right arm while his left continued to caress her left breast. Yes. Just like that. Kachu cried. Keep going. Kachu. I'm already at my limit. Seishin grunted, feeling the tension in his swelling up, and ready to blow at any moment. Leak inside me, Seishin. Fill my womb up. Kachu cried before the two screamed, releasing his SPRM and filling her womb to the brim. Kachu's howl filled the room and woke Nina up from her SEC-fueled nap. The amber-eyed beauty laid back against him with her head on the right side of his cheek, panting while her body twitched from the after effect of her euphoria. Seishin panted strong after feeling his stamina was almost drained after taming the two dragon-blooded beauties. His strong rod softened before it slid out of her stuffed nether region before their mixed fluids leaked out of the opening. Seishin, no matter how many times I say it, I will always love you, until the end of time. Kachu said. Me too, my darling baby boy. Nina said as she and Kachu continued to plant butterfly kisses on his cheeks and neck. I love you too, Kachu and Nina. Seishin replied as he was laying back with his eyes closed. Only to feel the two queens waking his manhood back up. The two kissed and ate all over his member before it was irked once again. Seishin smirked, knowing what they wanted and they knew they couldn't get enough of it. Up for another round, baby boy? Nina asked him. Please, darling. Kachu added. Hee, very well. In Ken, later that evening. Alright, last one. Seishin had just finished repairing the chapel with the others. The young man smiled as he and the other workers saw the chapel exterior fully repaired. Thanks for all of your help, Seishin. One of the townspeople said. It's no problem. Glad the chapel and the other areas are restored. Seishin smiled and waved before he drank the rest of his water from his thermos. Do you want to celebrate with us? We have plenty of food here. A female bartender in her mid-30s asked the young man while she was holding a mug filled with whiskey. I'll gladly join you all a little later. I gotta head back to the hidden base to get a few things. Seishin replied. Minutes later, Seishin returned to the base via Shuanpa. When he stepped inside, he felt a different presence. Things weren't the same since his friends and HRM were around. The base was full of life, but now it feels mostly empty. As Seishin went into his room, he went to gather the maps and scrolls. As he was reaching for the scroll that Shimulhasa stole, the scroll suddenly opened and a faint voice immediately called him before his mind caught visions of a land called Boan and under attack by KUROINU. A wife of the prefect, a few princesses, a famous commander, a bodyguard, another librarian, and a succubus. Once his mind absorbed what that vision gave him, Seishin regained his consciousness. A succubus in Boan? Seishin questioned, and I thought KUROINU was already disbanded since Volt was dead. Maybe. Seishin's hollow said as he appeared in his astral form. He gazed at the map seeing Bowen highlighted in gold, before he returned his sight to his Shinigami half, but then again, Kabuto would find a way to bring him back from the dead. You have a point. Seishin scowled as he remembered those encounters with that snake sage user. The young man growled for a brief second before calming down. Kabuto is just as devious as he is vindictive. Yeah, we must be on our toes. Hollow said. For both him and KUROINU. Right. Seishin said as he took the scroll, just before a spark of light appeared floating in front of him. When he looked up, a familiar female voice. Seishin, darling. The voice turned out to be Celestine's. Come over to the chapel. I have a surprise for you. A surprise? Well, I can't say no to a surprise. Alright, I'll go and see them. Seishin said before he left the base using shadow travel. Moments later, Seishin arrived at the chapel, eager for what the surprise would be. Though deep in his mind, he has a good feeling on how it'll end up. When he entered the chapel, he was greeted by 4 maids, 2 on each side. Greetings, Lord Seishin. The ladies said in unison. Hello to you ladies, and I would appreciate it if you just call me Seishin. He kindly replied, which they understood and happily agreed. I just got a message from Celestine. Do you know where she's at? She is in her garden. Marisol, the woman with the short sand-gold-colored hair said. Right this way, Seishin. The young woman and the other maids all smiled before they led him to her garden. Moments after, he and the maids arrived and the view left Seishin astonished. Just before his very eyes were multiple fields of pristine mountain laurels, glistening in the sunset. The maids all smiled and bowed to Seishin before they left. Each of them sported a loving blush as they took one last glimpse of Seishin and his handsome appearance. I'm glad you made it, Seishin. A familiar voice said before he turned around. Seishin smiled, knowing that it was Celestine greeting him. The two gazed at each other, smiling while a blush colored their cheeks. I had just finished preparing dinner for us. She added. This is wonderful, and let me guess. Olga's right behind me. Seishin then heard the dark elf queen's giggle before her slender arms wrapped around his waist. Her voluptuous body pressed against his back and her face softly nuzzled against his right side. Welcome home, my handsome king. Olga greeted him with a loving smile and blush on the elf's appealing face. The young man smiled as Olga cuddled with her king. Celestine grew a little jealous at how Olga was with Seishin. Not wanting to be left out, the pure elf joined and cuddled with him. This is a really good way to say, welcome home, Seishin chuckled while enjoying the affection he's getting, like a dog getting his belly rubbed, but I bet there's more to this surprise, isn't it? You guessed right, darling, and this is only the beginning. Olga said with a small giggle before making a slight wave of her staff. Once it glows, Seishin suddenly turns to see Celestine, down on her knees, moaning with her body slightly vibrating. Turn it off, please. Celestine cried in between her moans. It's sensitive down here. I can't take it. Seishin wondered what's going on before his nose caught the scent of Celestine's love juices leaking. Celestine told me that she hasn't tried a VBRTR before. I wanted her to try it out. Olga giggled before her staff glowed a little brighter, causing the VBRTR to gyrate faster inside her. Olga, please stop. I'm going crazy. Celestine begged as she tried to resist the sudden waves of pleasure coursing through her body. The holy elf looked up at Seishin as her longing to want him took over. Celestine pounced at Seishin's legs, more specifically his godly manhood. Seishin, I want your thick PP inside me. Celestine begged the young man as she held on to his bulge, like it's the only thing she wants in her life. Yeah, but. Seishin tries to calm her down, despite the VBRTR going wild inside her. Please. I want it so bad. Celestine continued to beg for the hero to breed with him, which made Olga giggle before she deactivated the toy inside her. Celestine then collapsed, catching her breath, after that toy slid out of her and landed on the puddle of her juices on the floor. Seishin hugged Celestine, calming her down a little. "Don't worry, Celestine. I'll gladly give you and Olga your happy endings as well," Seishin said, which made Celestine pull him down, kissing him with such passion. "Seishin, you are quite the enigma." Olga smiled before she gently pulled him from Celestine's lip lock and then placed her soft lips on his, kissing him with equal passion. "You're fierce when facing Volt, yet you showed compassion to us. And it's that same compassion that made us fall in love with you. Seishin-sama. I still haven't forgotten the night that you did with us, back in Dragondala," Celestine added as she and Olga clinged to Seishin, with their hands rubbing his bulge. Seishin, despite his blush on his face, chuckled. "Looks like we're skipping dinner. Hee hee, let's take this to bed, ladies," Seishin said. Moments later, Seishin, Olga and Celestine were together in bed. Their clothes were already thrown to the floor before their passionate FRNCTN began. "Ah. Yes, Celestine. Right there. Lick me deeper," Olga said as she was on top of Celestine, feeling her drenched snatch being ate before she resumed kissing Seishin passionately, while Seishin was going at it, sliding his godly in and out of Celestine's tight love hole as she was laying back first on the bed. "Seishin-sama. F me harder. Harder." Celestine cried as she craved more of Seishin's iron rod to go deeper inside her. However, her cries were of no avail as Olga leaned into his right ear. "Seishin, I want you to F me like before. I need your thick PP inside me," Olga begged into his ear before Seishin smirked before he stopped what he was doing with Celestine before Olga got on her hands and knees. Seishin rubbed his dark pink tip against the elf queen's wet folds before pushing it inside her. "Ah. Yes. Right there, Seishin-sama." Olga cried as she felt his PP hitting her G-spot so well. "Olga-sama. That's not fair. I want more of his godly PP inside me," Celestine cried. "All's fair in love and SEC, Celestine-sama," Olga replied in between her moans. "Besides, you're turning into quite the slut, aren't you? You look so cute begging for our hero's PP. So. I just worship his PP," Celestine responded while sporting a dark pink blush. "Celestine." Seishin waves his right hand, motioning her to approach him before kissing the pure elf. As she kissed him, she gasped when she felt Seishin's fingers sliding in and out of her lovebox. "Seishin, your fingers. They feel so good," Celestine cried as her hips gyrated in synchronized motion as Seishin continued to STMLT her, "But I want your PP inside me. Please, Seishin. I can't wait any longer. Celestine, my Utsukushai Megami. You're so cute when you're begging." Seishin kindly smiled while he softly wiped the tears off the pure elf's face before kissing her lips soft and tenderly for a minute before an idea came to mind. "I have an idea," Seishin said. A minute later, Olga was laying on top of Celestine, their large melons pressed against each other, their legs crossing with each other and their eyes continued to look at Seishin stroking his in his right hand before he approached them. The two felt his tip rub against their wet folds before Olga was first to feel Seishin's embrace for 10 seconds before he switched it for the PP-craving Celestine, who also felt it for 10 seconds. Seishin continued pleasing the two for a few more minutes until Seishin let his load out inside both the elves. Olga was first to get her insides filled and Celestine soon followed. Shortly after, Celestine and Olga were cleaning Seishin's tower with their mouths, eating up their combined mixture, which both elves love. Olga was first to take Seishin's PP down her throat for a few seconds before Celestine took a turn. After she cleaned his pecker, Celestine got on top of him, sliding his PP deep inside her hungry snatch. Seishin softly moaned while watching Celestine bouncing on his lap. His crimson eyes met with her forest green ones while she bounced on his groin as her smile never left. Seishin-sama. Your pee-pee's hitting my womb. It feels so good. Celestine cried as she bounced on his groin harder and faster. My, Celestine. You're even tighter than normal. Seishin chuckled as he watched her ride him. Tell me how much you love it, my Utsukushii Megami. Ah yes. Seishin-sama, I love you so much. My body. My soul. I'm all yours, forevermore. Celestine was in complete joy as she rode Seishin's meat stick like she's riding a wild stallion. Olga giggled as she watched her writhe in bliss while she and Seishin fondled her melons. The pure elf then leaned in and kissed his lips deeply. Hee hee. Celestine-sama, you naughty girl, look at you taking his pee-pee like such a slut. Olga giggled while she sat near his face, rubbing her wet siente, getting his attention, which it worked since Celestine felt his pee-pee grow an inch thicker. You must really love our hero's big pee-pee, don't you? Seishin treats us more than just women, he treats us like we're his queens, Celestine answered as honestly as she could, which is true since Seishin loves them all equally and that they love him back. Olga smiled at Celestine's answer before she joined in. Now, we're going to become his queens. Olga said as she looked at him with such sultry eyes before she sat on Seishin's face. The hero knew what she wanted, so he leaned up and licked her dark pink folds with his warm tongue. Olga continued to before she felt Celestine's lips pressed against her own, putting them in a passionate lip lock. Next, Celestine got on top of Olga, pressing her body against Olga's. The two nodded before they casted a spell by forming a circle with their index fingers pressed together. It made their moist love boxes shimmer in a small bright light and a portal appear between their clits. Seishin-sama, we created a charm that allows you to please us both at the same time. Olga said before she licked her lips. Please, my darling king. We want it so much. Celestine cried. Seishin chuckled before he nodded. He stroked his once more before sliding it through the portal the elves made. Olga and Celestine softly gasped and they felt Seishin's godly length inside their warm fleshy caverns before he began his assault. Seishin felt the overwhelming combined pleasure from both the elves. Their moist caverns immediately got tighter when he was hitting their G-spots and their CRVX with such drive. At the same time, Olga and Celestine were drunk with passionate lust from Seishin's powerful thrusts. Both the pure elf and the dark elf queen kissed each other with such passion while the two were rubbing their clits against each other. Seishin felt his tightening up and his sack swelling up. At the same time, Olga and Celestine felt their end quickly approaching. Olga. Celestine. I can't hold it much longer. Inside us. Let it out inside us, my dear king. Olga replied. Flood our wombs to your heart's content. Celestine added. After hearing the lady's response, Seishin gripped their hips before the three let out a loud Celestine and Olga felt Seishin's batter flood their wombs to the brim, before it and their love juices squirted out of them like a volcano erupting. Their combined fluids softly landed on each of the flowers, giving the scenery a snowy illusion. After a long intense love session, Seishin was in bed with Olga wrapped in his right arm and Celestine in his left. The two elves were resting with smiles on their faces while Seishin smiled as he looked at the stars. He calmly chuckled when he sensed the other princesses enjoying their night of loving pleasure. The young man then yawned before he fell asleep. The next morning, Seishin slowly woke up to the sight of Olga, Celestine and the other ladies. Even Aaliyah, Evelyn, Fenrir, Chloe, Kurenai, Murasaki and Ingrid joined in. Good morning, Seishin. They all said before he smiled and chuckled. As Seishin sat up, Celestine and Olga spotted his morning wood. The rest of the ladies followed afterwards. Seishin, let us help you with your morning wood. Celestine cooed before she and the others got naked once again. Seishin simply chuckled before removing the blanket, showing Seishin's full NDE view. Looks like you're up for another round. Olga smirked as she gazed at him with lustful eyes before she licked her lips slowly. All the girls slowly approached him, at the same time, the young man chuckled. Hee hee. I have plenty of stamina now. Let's have some fun. He said before he was tackled by the ladies. Later on as the weekend passed, Seishin told Celestine and the others that he was going to Bowen and he heard their cries of help through the scroll, just like when he heard Kachu's voice. As the next week came and Seishin was outside the chapel with his HRM. He has on a new outfit, black LTHR pants, a white sleeveless t-shirt, and ash-gray shoes. He also wore a thin ankle-length hooded jacket with a red interior and a split opening that went down his waist, and he wore a soft LTHR fingerless glove on his left enin. You got your things? Alicia asked him as Seishin put his belongings on the saddle placed on the back of his Zanpakuto spirit. Yeah. Seishin answered. I got my clothes, some food for the trip and my Zanpakuto. I'm pretty much ready. Do you know how long you'll be there for? Ingrid asked him. I'm not entirely sure. Seishin answered. Euroo is a vast land much like Salinas. It shouldn't be too strong. Are you going to write to us, every day? Prim asked. Hee hee, I'm gonna do more than that. Seishin answered before he held out 10 lockets. I had some help with the blacksmiths in Dragondala and made these heart-shaped lockets. I tweaked them a little using Hano Kuron and Sabashal. Simply say my name while looking at our group picture and my flame clone will come out and keep you company. I must say this is quite the gift. Kachu said as she smiled. Still, I rather have the real you than a clone, but this will do for the moment. We're gonna miss you, Oniai-chan. Roro said as she hugged him. Seishin smiled as he hugged her back before everyone else joined in. I'm gonna miss you all, too. Seishin replied. But don't worry, I'm gonna be back. I promise. I know you will, our king of Salinas. Olga replied before she, Celestine, and the others all gave him an embrace goodbye. Come back soon, my love. Celestine said. You know I will, my Utsukushai Megami. Seishin happily answered before he waved goodbye as he and his dragon flew into the air. As Seishin rides his dragon through the air, his inner hollow appeared in his astral form. A new land, new enemies and more allies to the HRM you're making. Seishin smiled at his hollow's comment. What can I say? It's like what Yoruchi said, I am this world's knight with a flaming sword. Seishin said, which his inner hollow smiled at his answer. Heh. Right on, kid. Seishin's hollow said before returning to his inner world. Ride on, Red Nova. Next stop, Euroo. Seishin cried, which his dragon roared in excitement before they flew at a speed equal to Mach 4. It's been almost a month since Seishin departed from Salinas to Euroo. With each passing day, the young man checks on Celestine, Aaliyah, Olga, Chloe and the others through the eyes of his flame clones he left in each of their lockets. Not a day passed by that he missed them very much. Along the way, rumors of his actions against Volt and KUROINU has spread towards Euroo. Some know of his name, others haven't, but hearing that KUROINU was defeated brought them hope. Through the week since he arrived at Euroo, Seishin had visited each village and helped them fend off dangers like thieves or random beasts near the land. One day, it was a partly sunny afternoon, he had stopped by a pub in a nearby village. When he walked in and saw the room full of thieves and assassins, he knew there was trouble, especially since they both have the two lovely elves, who work in this pub, in their grasp and about to have their way with them. The dark elf was indeed appealing, an identical look-alike to the dark elf queen, Olga. With the exception of her long, braided brown hair and violet eyes. She wore a purple top that hardly covered the sides of her large melons and a necklace that holds a picture of her late husband. Her matching long purple skirt has a large opening in the center that shows off her legs and thighs and what appears to be a zipper for easy removal. The other elf was equally appealing as the other one. She was a pure elf, like Celestine and Aaliyah. Her waist-length, wavy, blonde hair was braided into a crown with the front of her hair parted in the middle, making the sides curtained a little. Her outfit reminds him of those beer maids from Oktoberfest, a white blouse with an open top that shows off her bountiful cleavage, a bodice, tightly snug around her stomach and making her melons look bigger than they appear to be, a green mini vest that covered her shoulders and a matching short skirt. She also wore white knee-high leggings, each with a green collar around her thighs and light brown shoes. Their clothes were unfortunately ripped open, exposing their large melons to everyone. He also saw a young man, in his mid-30s, with short blonde hair who died from the multiple stab wounds on his chest. He gazed at the motionless man, with a sad look on his face and then to the blonde elf, and knew that he was her lover. "I wish I should have been here earlier," were the words he thought. He would have saved that man from his untimely death. His inner hollow then spoke to him. "Don't blame yourself for this. This isn't your fault. It's that group's fault." Seishin's hollow said to him. His eyes squinted as his anger began boiling, before his eyes caught the attention of a man approaching him. A tall, muscular man with short black hair and brown eyes approached him. The front of his hair was sticking upward like he was some sort of anime character. He wore brown arm bands that covered half of his hand, along with his wrist. He wore long black pants and a sleeveless brown shirt. The only thing that was making Seishin glare at him with cold eyes was the man's smug grin. "You're right. I couldn't save him, but I can avenge him," Seishin telepathically replied. "Hey guys, look at this tough guy," the tall man said before laughing at him. You do appear to be tough, but I doubt you can dash. Are you the piece of SHT that attacked this small village, those elves, and killed that man in cold blood? Seishin said while keeping his anger in check. "So what if I was the one? What are you going to do about it?" the smug man rhetorically asked. "I'm going to give you 3 chances for you and your cohorts to let go of those ladies, leave and never return," Seishin said coldly to the leader before the group started laughing at his threat. You got guts, kid. I'll give you that, so I'll spare you the trouble of asking who we are," the man continued. "The names Morgan and I, along with this group, are part of Black Fong, a group who supports KUROINU, and we're taking over this little tavern. This place got nice booze and babes to F with. KUROINU, how unamusing," Seishin's inner hollow thought. "Morgan, or whoever you are, I don't give a SHT about who you are. I'm telling you to leave, now," Seishin rebuked, which made the other men get up from their seats with weapons in hand. Luckily for the 2 elves, the few men that were about to have their way until Seishin arrived, freed them. The 2 elves hid behind the bar stand watching what's going to happen next. "Cocky punk. You got some nerve to say that to me," Morgan growled as he swung his right fist at him. Seishin squinted his eyes before he lazily leaned his head to the right, effortlessly evaded it. 1. Seishin said until Morgan threw another punch, which the Soul Reaper evaded it again. Morgan growled as he drew his long sword and attempted to decapitate him. Seishin sighed as he tapped the bottom of his sword's sheath with his shoe and effortlessly blocked it. How were you? Morgan gasped as he looked at Seishin as his glare never left. "And that was 3. Seishin muttered aloud. "What happened to saying 2? Morgan yelled at him before Seishin grabbed him by the collar and pulled him close to his face. "The moment you killed that man in cold blood, that was 2. Seishin said with venom in his voice before he delivered a gut-busting punch in his torso. He then slammed his knee into the man's face before gripping his hair and threw him out of the pub through the door. The others saw what happened and charged at Seishin. The young man saw what happened and jumped out of the pub. Once the other men surrounded the cloaked man, Seishin stood his ground, looking at each of them slowly making their advance towards the young man. Each of them had their weapons drawn out, from swords, to spears to daggers and maces. Morgan slowly got back up and glared at Seishin while gripping his long sword. He approached the mob surrounding Seishin and smirked at the situation. "Looks like you're surrounded, swordsman," Morgan said as he entered the ring, looking down at Seishin who remained calm and unmoved. "You should be nervous, being surrounded and all, yet I am quite impressed you've remained calm. However, you have no way to escape. It's over." "Funny. You said that I have no way to escape. Now what makes you think I was going to escape?" Seishin rhetorically asked him. "I may be surrounded, but that alone won't stop me. In the next 5 seconds, one of your dumbass teammates would make the first move on me. Then, the rest of your soldiers. Then, you. Afterwards, you and your army will be running away like scared little girls." "Humph, we'll just find out and see." Morgan rebuked before one of them stepped forward, with their large weapon in hand. Seishin smirked at Morgan's rebuke as one of his soldiers approached him from behind. The soldier swiftly made his move behind Seishin, but all felt was air. Seishin appeared behind the soldiers with his zanpakuto drawn. Before they could react, Seishin dashed towards them with his flash step. The soldiers and Morgan felt the slashes from all around their bodies until Seishin appeared behind Morgan. He then returned his zanpakuto into his sheath. Once the hilt was slammed in, their armor was fallen into pieces. Their broken blades followed afterwards. "DDMNU." Morgan growled at Seishin as he approached the wounded men. "If I wasn't holding back, you all would have been dead where you stand. I spared you from your unwanted death," Morgan growled as he glared at Seishin as he and his group got back up, clinging to their wounded arms and broken weapons. "Now, take your little fanclub, leave this land, and don't come back." Morgan gritted his teeth at Seishin's words before he and his group all retreated. Seishin watched as the mercenaries fled from the village, never to return again. The young man sighed with relief before turning to the 2 elves, before he noticed them gasping from shock. "Why, you saved us, thank you so much." The blonde elf said. "May we ask for your name?" "Seishin Samyu, at your service." The young man kindly answered. "Seishin. The rumored hero who defeated KUROINU and saved the princess knights." The dark elf gasped before she ran to hug him. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you. My name is Grace Campbell, and this here is Anna Florence." "Yes, pleased to meet you, Seishin," Anna said, sporting a smile. "I wish my partner was here to meet you." "Partner?" Seishin asked. "Yes, I was engaged to my partner, Ian," Anna answered before they turned to see the man, covered under the white cloth. "We were great workers who took care of this pub, until those bastards took over this land and killed him. This just happened before you just arrived." "My deepest condolences, Anna," Seishin replied with a bow. "Yeah. However, we did live a happy life, it's just that," Anna explained until she started to break down in tears. Seishin walked over to hug Anna. The blonde elf was surprised at first, but she then wrapped her arms around him. "A wife deserves to be loved. A passionless love isn't love in my book," Seishin said as he looked at her sapphire eyes. "Where I come from, husbands treat women like they're queens to their kings." Seishin. Anna closed her eyes as tears continued to run down her face as she held her close. Seishin then took a napkin and gently wiped her tears off her face before she and Grace hugged him. "Seishin, I couldn't thank you enough for all you had done," Grace said as she and Anna both smiled at him. "It's my pleasure," Seishin replied. "If it's not too much to ask, why not run your business in Salinas? It's a lot more peaceful since my group and I kicked KUROINU out." "Salinas? Isn't that a little far?" Anna asked him. "Yeah, but I have ways to help you out," Seishin said before his inner hollow appeared beside him, surprising the 2 elves. My inner hollow was monitoring the place, while encountering those bastards. He also made a few contacts with some people and they should be here, right, about, now. Seishin's prediction was spot on as the Bifrost arrived at his location. Once it went away, Seishin smiled at the familiar faces that are Lorelia, Odin and Freya. Alongside them was a tall man with long blonde hair with matching beard and blue eyes. His armor was a collared blue tunic with red piping and black pants. Over the blue shirt, he wore a black vest emblazoned with silver overlay. He wore a bright red cape that connected at the shoulders of his vest. His arms were covered in a form of chainmail and he wore detailed, black, knee-high boots. In his hands was a silver hammer as big as his arm. Seishin. Lorelia cried as she ran to give Seishin a hug. I'm glad to see you again. Ah. It's good to see you again, Lorelia. You as well, All-Father and Lady Freya. Seishin replied with a bow before he saw the blonde man standing beside them. I'm guessing things in Asgard are flourishing very well, especially since you all found Thor. You're right. Lorelia answered. It took a lot of time, but we were able to find Thor trapped in the underworld. My teachers and I were able to go there, save him and bring him back home. Afterwards, we told him all about you and your friends. Ah. You must be the hero who saved my home, my father's loyal Valkyries and our little rebel. Thor said before he playfully petted Lorelia's head. He then held that same hand out, offering Seishin to shake it. Seishin kindly accepted it. Seishin, you have my utmost gratitude. Anything you need, will gladly help. Thank you, Thor. Seishin kindly chuckled before he turned to the two elves who were left gasping from shock. Thor, Lorelia, Odin and Freya, I want you four to meet Grace Campbell and Anna Florence. I saved them from a band of bandits who wanted to violate these appealing elves. Alas, Anna's husband, Ian, lost his life, trying to protect them. Our deepest condolences, Lady Anna. Odin said as Thor went inside to carry the corpse. We'll give him a proper burial in Asgard. We'll honor him for his work and sacrifice. Anna's eyes swell with tears of happiness before she bowed to Odin. Seishin and the others smiled before the blonde elf turned to him. Seishin. How long will you be here? Anna asked him. Yeah, I'm wondering about that, too. Grace added. Well, I'm here on a mission in Bowen, but I'm not sure how long will I be. Seishin answered while brushing the back of his head. But once I'm done, I'll be returning to Salinas. I understand. Anna said. When you do return, Grace and I would like to repay you for your kindness. I'll gladly take up on the offer. Seishin replied, which made the two elves smile. That's Seishin all right. Lorelia said as she grinned, which made the young man smile and blush a little. Moments later, the two elves had packed up their belongings and then stood beside Odin, Freya, Lorelia and Thor. Do you have everything, ladies? Freya kindly asked the two elves. Yes, ma'am. We do. Grace kindly replied with Anna nodded in agreement. When you get to Salinas and meet Lady Celestine, tell them what happened. Seishin said. We will. Grace replied before she and Anna leaned in and kissed Seishin's cheeks. Thank you, Seishin. For all you did for us. Anna said. You're welcome. He replied before he suddenly realized one other thing he forgot to ask. Wait. How much farther is Bowen from here? It's about 7 miles up ahead. Grace answered. If you run through that forest path now, you'll be there before nightfall. Thanks and have fun in Salinas. He happily cried. We will. The two elves answered as they waved before being teleported via the Bifrost. Just then, one of the townspeople approached the young man. Are you going to Bowen? The scared villager asked him. Yes, I am. He replied. Is something wrong? I used to live there, but I heard there was a demon going around killing people. The villager answered. My wife and I immediately packed our things and moved here right away. Listen, if you're going to Bowen, do not let that demon tempt you. It'll kill you when you least expect it. I did kill demons where I'm from, but don't worry. I'll be alright. Seishin kindly replied before bowing to the villager and then departed from town by running through the forest path with incredible speed, surprising the others. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 13. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Takamagara 2012 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.